Hey guys, I just wanted to make a video for you so you could kind of see the whole process of creating your repeat design on your 4x6 paper, how to cut it, retape it back, and then how to transfer it to your linoleum tile, and then even real quick show you how to use the carving tools. So this will just be real brief, and you can kind of fast forward or rewind to get to the part that you need. So first, real quick, if you are drawing your fish design, depending on what your fish looks like, obviously it's gonna just be some sort of shape. Hopefully you are thinking about it longer than I am drawing this right here. Again, this can look like the skin or scales of your fish, or it could be some sort of abstract expression of the shapes in your fish. Notice I'm not drawing along the very edges of my paper. There's just kind of a gap there, and that's on purpose. So, just like I showed you guys before, you're gonna fold it hot dog style, crease it, and then you're gonna fold it hamburger style. Crease it. Okay. Ignore that announcement. Not me. Okay, sorry. Now you're gonna cut it long ways. Okay. We are then going to swap sides, just like we did that other day. You've swapped sides. Now we need to flip it over and tape it. Again, we do this so that we have a repeating pattern and you can't really tell where a block pattern stops and starts on the dish towel. We want to make sure that both edges match up. All right, so now I'm going to add in a few designs in this middle area so that there aren't gaps. Okay, maybe even a little guy right there. Ta-da. Okay, now I'm going to cut the other direction. Swap sides, flip it over, tape. All right. Now I'm going to, again, you can see how there's kind of like a gap in this middle area, and that's because I didn't go to the very edge. That's okay. What I'm going to do now is just add in a few designs. All right, so now to triple check that I've done everything right, I can actually fold my paper around and make sure everything lines up. If it doesn't, if I were you, I'd start over, do it again, watch this again. But they're lining up, and they are lining up. Okay? Just for like my brain and helping me, I'm going to just kind of quickly shade in these shapes because I want to remember that that's where I want my stamp to be when I make my linoleum tile. That'll make more sense later, but when you carve out your linoleum tile, sometimes it's confusing to know which part to leave and which part to carve. So if you think about, you're creating a stamp. So whatever you want to be stamped onto the fabric right now, I would just like really quickly shade. That way you can just kind of imagine like, okay, that is the part that's getting stamped onto the fabric, and you will know to carve everything around these sections. So again, just like super lightly shading, just so I know like, okay, that is the pattern that's gonna be stamped and repeated all over my dish towel. So now you're actually ready to go ahead and get the tracing paper. Looks like this, comes in a roll. You guys just take turns getting to it. There's a light side, and then there's a slightly darker side. This darker side actually has graphite on it, and we use this to trace our design from our paper to our linoleum tile. But what you want to be careful, is to not touch this dark side as much as possible, because it actually rubs off really easy onto your finger, and then it smudges everywhere and it makes things a hot mess. So what you need to do is cut off a piece of this trace paper to be exactly the size of your linoleum tile, which is 4 by 6, which is the same size as our drawing. So you can actually just lay your paper. Let's do it on the light side. You can just lay your paper on top of the trace paper and just kind of mark it so you know where to cut. All right, I'm gonna cut down here. Again, trying not to touch the back side as much as possible. All right, then I'm gonna cut this way. All right, set this back where you found it. Okay, so now I'm gonna really delicately be handling this paper. Again, there's the darker side, the lighter side. You're gonna get a linoleum tile. They're over by the black pegboard. And you're going to face the darker side of this paper flat onto the linoleum tile. You're then going to try not to do what I just did. You don't want to be smushing your fingers on this because it's going to be pushing the graphite through to the linoleum tile. So try to touch it as little as possible with your fingers. You're gonna get a piece of tape, whatever kind of tape, doesn't matter. And you're going to tape this trace paper in place onto your linoleum tile so it doesn't budge or it doesn't slide around. All right, just the top and bottom is fine. Again, you just are kind of using this as a placeholder. Okay, now you're gonna take your drawing, lay it on top of that, making sure that it's lined up with the edges of your linoleum tile. All right, then you're gonna take tape that down too. Okay. Now we are ready to trace our design and transfer it to our linoleum tile. So with a different colored pen, you're going to trace over the outer lines of the shapes that you want to be on your stamp. For example, this dish towel had this stamp. That means originally they had all these circles drawn on their paper and they carved around each circle. So for my design, if I want all of these shapes to be the stamp, the colored part that actually shows up on the dish towel, I need to trace around all of them and carve around all of them. So you're gonna kind of bear down semi-hard. You do not need to shade them in. We're just tracing the outline. For the sake of time, I'm not going to do the entire thing. I'm just gonna do a few down on this side so you can see. Again, pressing down fairly hard, but I'm not like breaking the paper or anything. I'm using a second color pen so I know where I've already covered. Okay. And there we go. You want to do that a little more detailed than I just did. And you obviously want to go all the way over, but again, for the sake of time, we'll be done with that for now. Okay, now you get to peel off your tape and get to see your design transferred. So it's not gonna be like perfectly crystal clear, but it's gonna be enough for you to see. What you can do now is with a, let's see, with a pencil, pretty sure a pencil's gonna work. If I have a pencil around here. No, of course I don't. This is like our sewing videos all over again. You can use a pencil or a pen, but you're gonna just like quickly trace over these lines if you don't feel like you can see them super well. That way you know exactly where to carve around when we start using our linoleum carvers. So I'm just like going over a few of these to make sure I really clearly see where the shapes are. If it smudges a lot, then if I were you, I'd have your drawing right next to your linoleum tile so you can see what it was supposed to look like if it didn't trace over perfectly, and then fix it when you go over it with your pen. All right, so imagine I've got my pattern over my entire linoleum tile. Imagine I've outlined each shape so I can see it really clearly. Then you're gonna go get yourself a linoleum carver. So these carving tools work a lot like X-Acto knives in the sense that they're very sharp, so you wanna be careful. But you can actually change out the blade. These teal ones and a few others in the bucket actually have a storage container with other carving options. Some are really fine tipped and are good for really tiny detail. Others are bigger and carve out more at a time. To change one out, you just rotate this grippy part to the left, pull out the tip, change it with the one you want, slide it back in, and then twist to the right to tighten it down. Carving the linoleum tile is pretty simple. Again, oops, excuse me. You just want to be really careful to be wise about where you're carving. So I would start by applying pressure and carving around each of your shapes before you do kind of the big open areas. So you're just carving along the outer perimeter of all of your shapes. If you find that the tip of the tool you're using isn't detailed enough, then change it out. Or if it's too detailed and it's taking forever, then go get a thicker one. Make sure to carve out even this empty space in between. If you want to wait till like the end after you've done all the borders and outlines, you can. Just make sure you don't go in all the way to the other side. Just go deep enough that you're like halfway through the linoleum tile. So spend the rest of class carving out your tile. We won't use these as stamps till after we dye the background color of our dish towels and after we sew and hem them. But hopefully this can get you started while I'm gone at IKEA and you can enjoy class making your stamp. Just email me if you guys have any questions. I hope this helped and have fun.